demonstrate and exhibit care and concern one for another. Like many of you, I watched the memorial service yesterday for Nelson Mandela. And the word that kept coming up over and over again, and appropriately so, was that African philosophical dictum that says, I am because we are. Amen. And because we are, I am. And so let me just say that Kendrick Johnson is gone. But his spirit summons us here. His blood cries out from the ground. It says that we must stand up not only for him, but for all of our children. Amen. This case speaks to the very heart of who we are. Amen. As an American people. And let us be very clear that we are an American people. Amen. And this case speaks to the heart of who we are. Amen. This case speaks to the precious principles of our democracy. Amen. Principles like equal protection under the law and the rule of law. And it is very clear that somewhere along the journey somebody broke the law, and so somebody must be held accountable. So we're glad that the feds are involved in this case. We say to Governor Deal, we say to the Secretary of State, we say to all of the elected officials of the great state of Georgia that Georgia is on trial, that our integrity as a state hangs in the balance. We cannot afford to have our state receive a moral and an ethical black eye. The word must not go forth. Amen. And we are still caught up in the throes of an old system. That this is the old South and not the new South. We must put to bed the notion that we are still dealing with Jim Crow and Jane Crow. No, it is a new day. And so we are determined to stand up. And so stand up, sisters and brothers. Even when you feel like you are a minority, stand up. Even when you feel like nobody is listening, stand up. Even if you have to stand up by yourself, stand up. That's right. I know your efforts may seem small. But down in the state of Virginia, there is this amazing natural phenomenon that inspires me in moments like this. There is something in the Blue Mountains of Virginia called the Natural Bridge. There's a small body of water, sisters and brothers, called Cedar Creek. It's really small, but it's done an amazing thing. Cedar Creek, a tiny body of water, like a surgeon's knife, has managed to press its way through a mighty mountain. One standing there might be left scratching your head asking, how did something so small manage to make such a huge impact? But if you were to go and ask Cedar Creek, what makes you so bad? How in the world did you manage to push your way through a mighty mountain? The creek would say, don't look at me. If you really want to see something impressive, you ought to go and talk to the James River. Because the creek really gets its strength from the river. It's the river that pushes the creek, and the creek has made its way through the mighty mountain. But if you were to go to James River and say, Old Man River, what makes you so bad? How in the world have you managed to push the creek, and the creek has made its way through the mountain? You know what the river would say? The river would say, don't look at me. If you really want to see something impressive, you've got to talk to something bigger than me. You ought to go down to Hampton, Virginia. Because down in Hampton, Virginia, there's something called the Chesapeake Bay. Don't you know that it's really the bay that pushes the river, and the river pushes the creek? That's why the creek has made its way through a mighty mountain. But if you were to go and talk to the Chesapeake Bay and say, oh, Bay, what makes you so bad? The Bay would say, don't look at me. If you really want to see something mighty and awesome, you ought to go and talk to the Atlantic Ocean. Don't you know that it's the ocean that pushes the bay, and the bay pushes the river, and the river pushes the creek, and the creek has made its way through a mighty mountain. But because I'm from Savannah, Georgia, I don't to this savvy and sophisticated crowd that one day I had a conversation with the Atlantic Ocean. Yes, I did. And I said, "Oh, man, ocean, what makes you so awesome?" And the ocean said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, the ocean has managed to push the bay has pushed the river's pushed the creek, and the creek has made its way through a mighty mountain." You know what the ocean said? The ocean said, "Don't look at me. I get my strength from the pull of gravity and from the God who orchestrates the supply movement of ocean currents. The God who causes Jupiter and Mars to march in single file like disciplined cadets to the drumbeat of eternity. I get my strength from something larger than me. And so this crowd may not be all that large, and your strength may seem mighty small, but you keep on marching. You keep on pushing. You keep on protesting. You keep on writing. You keep on praying. You keep on making the case for freedom. Stand up for justice. Stand up for righteousness. Stand up for Kendrick Johnson. Stand up for all of our children. We're fired up. Fired up. Fired up. Ready to go. Keep making the case until justice prevails.